Hey everyone, this is my latest installment of the Indie Life series, the Do's and Don'ts. I got behind on this because I've been a little busy. I'm trying to prop this up. Okay. Uh, this particular one is a little more directed, where my previous videos were rather general. Here, I'm going to be primarily addressing those who are a little bit further along in their creator journey. You have actually completed a draft of your script. Maybe you have a book together. Maybe you actually have one printed and have booked your table at the con. These are the main people I'm talking to now. However, even if you are still in the beginning stage, this is still useful information for when you get to that place. What I'm going to talk about here is the pitch. And there's a lot of ground to cover. So for that reason, I'm going to break it into two parts. In this one, I'll be talking about what you really need to not say. And in the next, I'll cover the more positives, what you should say in these situations. So you are describing your character, your story, what have you, your book to a potential buyer, or perhaps the owner of a comic book store, or perhaps or you could even be presenting your script to an artist. First and foremost, and I cannot stress this enough, keep other properties out of your mouth. But by that I mean don't draw comparisons between your work and someone else's. Don't say it's just like this. The very first indie creator I ever met at my very first con actually said to me, I kid you not, this book is like Batman. So if you like Batman, you'll like this. Now, the fact I was wearing a Batman t-shirt at the time does not make that okay. Because what you're basically telling someone is just keep reading Batman. There's no need to pick up my book. But so, don't bring other characters into it. What you're doing is you're first off conveying a lack of confidence because you feel the need to latch onto something familiar in order to get that person's attention. You're also sending the message that you've copied someone else's work. Now, while I have been accused of this on occasion, anyone who's read my work knows full well I don't copy. I have never, I would never. Do I draw inspiration from others? Yes, of course, we all do. But to go out and basically make a carbon copy of something that already exists, no, I would absolutely never do that. And you don't want to give people the impression that you do. You were thinking about, when you came up with your character, whatever you were thinking about, I'm sure you didn't set out to give an alternative version of something that already existed. You were trying to create something that is yours. And that is what this potential reader, buyer, collaborator needs to hear. So I can't stress that enough. Don't. If, upon hearing the description, they make a comparison, don't accept it. Deflect it. No, it is not. And I'm going to just throw an example out. Suppose your character is a hero who poses as a criminal in order to infiltrate operations, and the person says, "Oh, my Green Hornet." Not my Green Hornet, and here's why. So be prepared for that. Don't just say yes to that. Never, ever say yes to the comparisons. Again, it shows a lack of confidence in your work. It's also important that you want the person you're presenting to understand who you are as a creator. And they can't do that if all they see is this other familiar work. Now, to be realistic here, your point is not always going to get across. It's human nature. Some people are going to hear what they want to hear. They're going to see what they want to see. And there's nothing you can do about that. But don't, how do I want to put this? Don't dumb down your presentation because of people who don't get it. You don't ever want to do that. I move around a lot when I'm talking. It helps me to think, helps me to put my thoughts together. And so just bear with me on that. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about in the What You Don't Say is kind of the flip side of that. You don't want to throw shade. Never, ever, ever badmouth anybody in the business. You may have your particular gripes with a writer, an artist, or a publisher. We all do. Truth be told, I do. There are a great many well-known writers and artists out there who have made decisions that I emphatically disagree with, but you'll never hear about it from me. One, I used to do that years ago, but the thing I learned is that that energy that you put into critiquing someone else's work could be far better spent advancing your own. And two, you sound petty. You sound childish, really. What you're doing is, especially if that is someone who is further along in the game than you and or more successful than you. For you to openly criticize them, particularly in your presentation, in your blog posts, what have you, podcasts, it's not the image that you want to convey. Additionally, you could end up alienating people who are fans of that particular person. You could alienate someone who could help you move to that next level. And in general, it's just not a good look. So when you're talking about your work, talk about your work, not what so-and-so is doing. Or another way to look at it, think of every pitch as a job interview. Think of every pitch as a job interview. If you were going to a job interview and while you are waiting, you meet the other candidate, and perhaps you just feel like you are so much better than another candidate. Okay, great. When you get called into that office and that HR person asks, "Why should I hire you?" They don't want to hear what the other applicant doesn't bring to the table. They want to hear what you bring to the table. So those are my main bullet points for this one. Like I said, there's so much ground to cover that I'm going to cover the do's in a separate installment. But that's the first and foremost. Don't compare. Don't badmouth. Just stay clear of those two. and we'll talk about the makings of a good pitch, which is something I had to learn on the fly the next time we meet.